Hi, everyone. It's Elizabeth from Elpis Astrology at elpisastrology.com. Thanks for joining me today, and welcome all my new viewers as well as my new audio members as well. So, I'm going to talk today mainly focused on Saturn and Neptune being in Aries, because I think this particular time period, which is about a 3-year time period, with them both being in Aries, is probably more important than anything else, as opposed to looking at them separately, looking at Neptune separately, looking at Saturn separately. So I'm really going to be covering that 3-year period where both of these planets, Saturn and Neptune, will be in Aries. And I will go into all your sun signs as well as your ascendants. You pick, it's entirely up to you towards the latter part of this video. So I'm going to run through some of the things that happened in the past. When did this happen last time? All that sort of thing. So when we look at how often does both Saturn and Neptune get together and align, well, that's about every 36 or 37 years. And the last one was in 1989 to 1990. We've not had one in Aries. I couldn't find one, actually. Maybe there's going to be an astrologer that goes back far enough that can tell us when we had the Saturn Neptune in Aries. But you may recall, in fact, I was living in London at this time, getting my Ph.D., and this was when the Berlin Wall came down. I know because I had a good friend come out and visit me. She was going to go to Berlin to get a piece of the wall, and indeed she did. So that was the last time that we had both Saturn and Neptune together, but it was not in Aries. So when we look at other years that Saturn is a 30-year cycle, right? So we know that there's been more than one time that Saturn has been in Aries. And I'm just going to give you a few of the years just to kind of give you an idea of a flavor where you may want to recall what was going on in those years if you were alive. So when we dial right back to some of the early years, I didn't go all the way back. Saturn was in Aries. We've got 1937, 1939, which of course marked World War II, 1940, 1967 to 1969, that was the Vietnam War. And then we've got the 1996 to 1999 time period. And it was interesting because we had Bill Clinton, first of all, reelected during that time period, but he was also impeached. I don't think the impeachment necessarily went through, but he had to go through the proceedings for an impeachment. It was also the time of the Kosovo War and a big Taiwan earthquake at that time, too. Neptune was last in Aries between 1534 and 1537. And it's interesting because this is when King Henry VIII, broke away from the Catholic Church because he wanted to divorce his wives, right? Or the number of wives he had. And he set up or created the Protestant Church of England by disavowing the Catholic Church. So that's the last time Neptune was in Aries. Okay, so and the other time Neptune was in Aries was 1861 to 1865, and those Americans that know their history know this was the American Civil War. Yeah. I'm going to look at next some dates that I think are going to be important for both Saturn and Neptune being in the sign of Aries. And there's a few of them. I guess one of the first ones that's really going to come up is going to be when Saturn and Neptune actually do conjunct exactly. But do note, especially for those amateur astrologers that maybe take a look at an ephemeris, you can see that we're going to have Saturn and Neptune close together various times over the next few years, very, very closely, but not exact. And so when we look at the exact time period, we're looking at the 19th, 20th of February, 2026. And that's when Saturn conjuncts Neptune at 0 degrees and 40 minutes of Aries. Now, it's interesting because just prior to that happening, on the 17th of February, 2026, we're going to have an annular new moon eclipse at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So that eclipse will fall under the auspices of that conjunction, the exact conjunction of Saturn and Neptune as well. So it's a new moon eclipse. This could usher in like some major new thing happening. Now, it's Aquarius, so we're talking about different groups in society, right? We're talking about maybe independence of some sort, rebellion of some sort, but it's a new moon. So it is going to bring and usher in something new for us. Perhaps it's going to be associated with, the inspiration that's been happening literally all over the world, and certainly in the USA, where like-minded people are coming together and protesting and saying what they want and what they don't want. So it's a time also where I see that we may recognize how close we are together and how we all stand by each other, right? That's very Aquarian. We also have a little bit later, we have on the 17th of April now, 2026, we have Mercury will be conjuncting, first of all, Neptune at 6 degrees of Aries. And then it's going to be going on to conjunct Saturn. That's going to be on the 20th of April. So these Neptune, or rather Mercury, likes to bring messages. It's the one entity that can go from the gods to Earth down to the underworld in mythology. So I would say that when Mercury conjuncts Neptune, that there may be some big lie that happens. Some big lie comes out, is announced, right? A couple days later, there's a reality check on that lie. But it's not just any lie. This is something that's extremely important to everybody that hears it, right? So that'll be an important thing to come up too. Now, just a little bit before that, on the 13th of April, 2026, we'll have Mars. Mars conjuncting Neptune on the 13th of April, 2026. Then that Mars will go on and conjunct Saturn. And it's going to conjunct Saturn the same time period that Mercury will conjunct Saturn. So we'll have a Saturn, Mercury, and Mars in conjunction 19th, 20th of April, 2026. So we're really looking at February and April being important months next year in 2026 with regards to kind of really solidifying or almost like focusing, but also like with Mars in the mix here, action taken of some sort that's significant, not something minor. That's going to be important for us to see reality here, not just to have the lies covered up or the confusion. Saturn brings to Neptune a clarity, is what I really got that word more than anything else. A clarity from either having rose-colored glasses on or clarity from being confused, maybe through all the press and all the news on TV and the internet that has not been truthful, that's been clouding things over. That Saturn's going to say, let me show you what's real here. And especially when that Mars comes into effect here in the April time period on both those planets, Saturn and Neptune, you bet something's going to come of it. And you know that Mars can represent a male. So this delivery and action may be taken through a male, or maybe more than one male. All right. So in terms of time periods of how long everything lasts here, we really have on the 26th of May, 2025, is when Saturn will go into Aries and come up close to Neptune. That's going to last right the way through the 14th of April, 2028. And after that time, two things are going to happen, right? So this is now we're talking about April 2028. We're going to have now Saturn moving from Aries into where Uranus has been, and that would be Taurus. And then we're going to be leaving Neptune on its own. So one of the reasons I wanted to make this, besides educating some folks that are interested in this whole cycle, is also to say, I feel there's a stronger bond with having your hopes, dreams, or wishes come true and be made into reality when these two are together and in tandem, especially as they come closer together, even within degrees. Great time to have dreams, wishes come true. And I'm thinking in particular for those folks that are more in the arts. So the arts in particular we're talking about is film of any sort, even photographs, dance of any sort, sculpture, poetry, that type of thing is all going to be especially highlighted with this whole in and out conjunction of both Saturn and Neptune together. Saturn likes to make things real. Neptune likes to make you inspired, but it also can ask, what are your hopes, dreams, and wishes? So at its highest, this is what I see can be coming true. On the other side of what this could be bringing is the effect of Neptune on Saturn. Saturn represents our old institutions, like banks, our governments, churches even. And the effect of Neptune on that is to dissolve, basically. So we're going to be seeing, especially over, I think, the first 3 years or so, starting in May, towards the end of May this year, 2025, that actually happening, right? Now, the other thing Neptune can represent too is, I always say it's like the cloak of invisibility. And that ties in with the dissolution, confusion, even as far as deceit type stuff. So if you've got this anywhere, say near your ascendant or your sun, there could be some reason that Neptune wants to put this cloak of invisibility on you. Might be that some folks will be working behind the scenes diligently to make things happen, maybe to be involved with dissolving some of these institutions, and they have to remain hidden for whatever reason, right? All right, what I'd like to do is to move next over your looking at your both ascendant and or sun sign, and take a look to see how both these are going to be interacting in your specific house that they may fall in. So Aries, you know that both Saturn and Neptune fall in your first house. So generally speaking, when we look at the Saturn part of it, this is a time when you have new responsibilities coming into your life. If you're younger, it may be that you start growing up at this time and take on more responsibilities. For others, it may have you working harder. For others, it may also bring in some karma. And just because we're talking about karma, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. But certainly if you've not been living up to your responsibilities, karma is going to come in here and help you out there. Sometimes you can also have an elevation, say in your standing at this time. Say you've been working very hard at becoming something, and you're acknowledged for it. You're acknowledged as the person who is knowledgeable in that area that you've been diligently working at. So kind of recognition. And this effect, of course, is going to be over the 3-year period that Saturn does stay in Aries. And remember, this is a 30-year cycle. So for those that are older, you could look back and say, well, what happened 30 years ago? What was happening to me? So we're just talking about the single aspect here of Saturn, right? Now, when we look at Neptune in the first house, together with Saturn, this can have dreams coming into a reality, right? The dreams part of it is Neptune, and the reality part is the Saturn. It can also have you working hard in some sort of compassionate way. Maybe you're working on a charity, 501c, or even in a hospital setting or hospice setting. Anything to do with where compassion is very much to the fore. Now, the other thing this can bring in too, of course, is intuition, as well as intuitive type things, where you just have these hunches and know ahead of time something's going to happen here. And it becomes a reality with the Saturn on top of it, right? So, Aries, this is an exciting time for you. That's all I can say. Typical things that we could also see happening in the first house are those folks that I mentioned sort of at the beginning. Combining both these is that You may have some kind of major dream come true, especially as it applies to music, dance, and film, because Saturn on top of Neptune, those things that are under the auspices of Neptune, can make it real. Now, the other side of this is that together, Saturn and Neptune, on the negative side, can bring or breed confusion of some sort, doubting yourself. Can I really do this? I'm not sure. Certainly when Saturn leaves in 3 years from the end of May 2025, and Neptune is just there, Aries, whatever you've made real during the first three years when Saturn and Neptune are together, whatever you've worked really hard and been inspiring yourself and maybe other people, Neptune's left just there, right? Operating on its own without maybe some of the harsher aspects of Saturn, really giving you true inspiration to move ahead with whatever you've created from your dreams and hopes. So super positive time for you, Aries. I'm really excited for you. Now, what's going to happen after 3 years? And that specific date was, let me give it to you again. Yeah, the 14th of April, 2028, when Saturn leaves Aries and goes into Taurus. Well, this is going to be ushering in a whole different thing. It'll be in your second house, Aries, and there'll be a little more focus on becoming real about the income that you earn, maybe tightening up your belt a little bit with regards to how you spend your money, that type of thing. But it also could have you being more valued as a senior person in maybe the job where you make money. I'm not really spending a lot of time here on this video to go into Saturn in your second house in Taurus, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up on that. I will make a whole different video on that too at a later date. Take care, Aries. So Taurus, these two, Saturn and Neptune together in Aries, fall in your 12th house. So really, this 12th house really says, with both these in there, says, let's clear the rubbish. Let's get all the stuff out of here that has been holding me back. Let's look under that carpet and get things cleaned. I mean, you may literally be cleaning things up, say in your home, or wherever it is that you may reside, maybe even in your workplace. Maybe you'll be cleaning yourself up too, in the sense of, getting better health for yourself. Because don't forget that 12th house is across from the 6th house, which is the house of health, amongst other things. It's also a time with the Saturn influence, Taurus, is to finish off projects. It's not a time to start things. The start things is going to be when Saturn actually makes its way into your sign and Taurus goes over your ascendant into your first house. Yeah, so you want to clean things up that just aren't working. Maybe you've got to get literally rid of some things that, do a Marie Kondo of some sort. The 12th house is also the house of rest. I would say that Saturn and Neptune together, you could formalize some way of maybe meditating, expressing your spirituality. Some folks may actually take tests or get qualified to have some kind of interest, that has some kind of interest in the metaphysical arts or the spiritual arts at this time. You may actually work hard for 3 years to get qualified for something in that area as well, like a certification, right? These are great things for you to take up. Certainly spirituality is going to be emphasized at this time. You may have great intuition to Taurus and hunches. You need to follow that. You may even have a bigger interest in spiritual things, and this may extend to religion as well. You may get your instructorship for yoga. Maybe you're going to qualify for some kind of seriousness with regards to dance or sculpture or filmmaking. All those fall under Neptune types of things. You are going to be questioning if you're fulfilled. And the thing with that question, when you ask yourself, am I being fulfilled here, is not to criticize yourself or judge yourself for saying, why didn't I do that? I should have done this. Man, why didn't I? And why did I do that? You're going to naturally fall into that type of thinking, but that's not the purpose here of having this thing happening for you with this conjunction. What it's really asking you is to observe. It may be a very introspective sort of time period, those 3 years with Saturn and Neptune, because the 12th house is all behind the scenes. And you may truly be working behind the scenes with some kind of inspirational project in those areas that I just spoke about. Now, that influence of Saturn also, you could be having, as I said, this increase of interest in religion when combined with the Neptune part of it. But when Saturn moves on and it goes into Taurus in 3 years, leaving Neptune in Aries for many more years, it's going to be crossing your ascendant Taurus and then into your first house. And so this is going to bring in possibilities of an elevated status, maybe in your job. It can also bring in new responsibilities, period. And this might equate to something, say, you got married, or you're getting married, or you've had your first child, that type of thing. It doesn't mean it's going to be unwelcome, but it can be a time of hard work too. And of course, with Saturn in the first house, it's a time of karma. So you could think also back and say, during this time period with Saturn in your 12th house, make sure that you clear things up, right? That's what I would say. Clear things up. Let things go. That's the other thing of 12th house, which is where Saturn and Neptune will be for the next 3 years, starting towards the end of May 2025. Yeah, let things go that are just not working in your life, that are tripping you up, and maybe have been tripping you up for your whole life. This is the time to let it go so you're fresh and ready to take on new responsibilities in 3 years' time, right? Meditation might be very important to you. And as I speak to my clients, meditation doesn't mean you've got to sit cross-legged for 2 hours. If that works for you, sure, no problem. But it might mean that you just take a 10-minute walk on your own, or say with your dog, in a park or by the ocean or by a lake. And that's your meditation, right? Take care of yourself, Taurus. So Gemini, Aries sextiles your sign. So here we've got the introduction of opportunities coming your way, positive opportunities coming your way, where you can look at them and decide, do I want to take them or not? That's the idea with the sextile. Now, this conjunction or station of both Saturn and Neptune is going to be in your 11th house when it's in Aries. So the 11th house, we tend to talk about our friends and our groups we belong to, as well as our hopes, dreams, and wishes. So especially with the influence of Saturn there, you may start connecting more with older friends, or maybe friends from the past may come back in here. You could also be considering joining established groups. Maybe you've gotten some kind of new certification or new degree of some sort. And now, once you've got that given to you, you can then join these very elite established groups that are important for you to progress now through your career. But hey, this can also bring in a chance and an opportunity to make hopes, dreams, and wishes come true. Saturn brings in the truth and the reality of something. Neptune can bring in the hopes, dreams, and wishes. And the 11th house is the house of hopes, dreams, and wishes. Certainly with Neptune working with Saturn, you are going to be working hard to make your dreams come true. And I'm wishing you the best of luck, Gemini. You could, though, get some disappointment with friends. The disappointment part is with the Neptune, you're not seeing, or you are seeing, that they're not doing things right. Maybe they're not being so truthful to you. And Saturn comes in and says, hey, Neptune, wake up. This is the reality of what's going on here. And this may be a time when some of your friends go away. And Neptune can also provide that dissolving thing. They may just kind of ghost on you for whatever reason, too. Doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, right? Now, in 3 years' time, you're going to have Saturn that will be going from your 11th house to your 12th house as it goes into Taurus. And so this is going to bring in just perhaps some introspection. It'll be a time to reflect, a time to tie up projects, a time to maybe let some things go. I'm not talking too much about Saturn going into Taurus because I'm trying to focus more on the Aries, Saturn, and Neptune, but just giving you a heads up a little bit on that. So Gemini, I would look at that Neptune in the 11th house. You do have to take care with friends that you associate with. Yeah, it's not a really good time to lend money to friends either, I would say. Just double check anytime a friend asks you to do a big favor for them that's going to require maybe financial or maybe big use of your time. Look very carefully at that and don't be afraid to say, I'm not available to help you out. Certainly your compassion is going to be around other people aroused, for your friends and the groups you're going to want to give and help. Just don't put on that martyr hat and just watch yourself. I always say, if you see yourself changing the way you're doing things, take a 10,000-foot view of yourself and say, gee, how many times am I putting myself out for other people when really I had other things to do to take care of myself? That's when you have to ask yourself, maybe I'm sacrificing too much here and I've got to take care of me, right? Have compassion for me. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be helping people out. It just means there's got to be a balance there too. The other thing with a combo of Saturn as well as Neptune together is that you may take on this burden of looking after a friend, Maybe there's no one else to help this person out, and you feel that you're obliged to do that. I guess you're going to have to look at and balance looking after, say, a friend, helping a friend out, having compassion, but also to be taking care of yourself as well. As I mentioned a little bit earlier in this talk to you, Gemini. Take care, Gemini. So for Cancer, when we look at Aries, that squares you, Cancer. So there might be some challenges here. It doesn't mean that you're not going to achieve a lot of things, Cancer. It just means that there may be some blocks here and there or challenges that you've just got to overcome. And we're looking here at your 10th house. So the 10th house is your career. It's your social standing. It is your reputation. So all these things are going to require some literal work on your part. But hey, you're going to have the workhorse of the universe on your side, and that would be Saturn, along with Neptune in your 10th house. This would be a fantastic time to either get qualified, take tests, pass tests, regarding anything to regard to the metaphysical world. That's very what the Neptune is all about, the spiritual world, metaphysical world, even can be religion as well, and philosophy. Getting qualified or improving your standing with regards to that could be off the charts for some Cancers where you get recognized as the expert. That's the Saturn part over this three-year time period when we have Saturn and Neptune together. Certainly with Jupiter in Cancer in your sign, Cancer, from June to June, so June 2025 to June 2026, that year in particular could be off the charts for you. At the very least, that Jupiter is going to provide a cushion for any effects that square may be providing with regards to challenges. It might just be boxes that you've got to literally, check off. And Saturn says, can you pass this test? And if you do with flying colors, especially during the year 2025 to 2026, when Jupiter's in your sign, this could bring some real elevation to your social standing, your reputation, and your career. Awards and rewards could be coming your way, and new leadership responsibilities. The negative side of this is that you might be too focused on your career. You're working too hard. The Saturn part of it is saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. And maybe you really are inspired to keep going. But the negative side with that Saturn causing you to work too hard could put your work-life balance out of balance, because the opposite house to the 10th house, of course, is the 4th house of home. So just take care of that. I always say, try to take that 10,000-foot view if you are working really hard, and see how it's affecting your family life, whatever that is for you, Cancer, because family is everything to you. But this could be a culmination of all your efforts in your career. When you have Saturn at the top of your chart, pretty well all astrologers will say, this could be a real time period where, awards and rewards come in for hard work. But if you've not been working hard and you've been shirking your responsibilities, this also may be a time, just like Saturn on your ascendant, where you are told this is your responsibility and you need to grow up and take care of this. Or this is your responsibility and you're forced to take care of something you've not been taking care of, probably in your career sector. But take care with that work-life balance thing too here. Now, in 2.5 to 3 years, Saturn will move out of Aries and go into Taurus. And of course, that'll be your 11th house. So the 11th house could bring in, some very awesome spiritual friends, some very awesome spiritual groups, and where you may actually be asked to be a leader of those groups as well, because of what you achieved with Saturn in that 10th house. But it's also the hopes, dreams, and wishes house. So when Saturn then goes into that 11th house in about 3 years, you could see some hopes, dreams, and wishes come true. That's the effect of Saturn. But sometimes Neptune in that 10th house can bring confusion about where you're going. And like I said, the nice part of it is for the first 3 years of Neptune being in Aries, it'll be assisted by that Saturn for 3 years. So I'm just saying that you're going to have Saturn, even when you are confused about maybe where you're going and you're unsure, Saturn could come in and say, hey, let me help you out. And that helping out could come through someone who's older, typically, someone who's more senior in terms of the type of career that you're doing, almost like an advisor role where they can help you out. Maybe a mentor comes in to help you where, you're on the right path here. Just do a little bit more of this over here and you'll be fine. So look for that also in the 3 years that we have from May through to April 2028. Certainly Neptune in the 10th house does favor compassionate work, helping others in any way, perhaps even those with, say, addiction problems of any sort. That can also be featured here. Spiritual work with Saturn could and may have you achieve some kind of significance. So there's a lot of positive things here. It's like when I look at this, I say, work hard, be determined, look and observe, how can I do this? Even though there's a challenge here, think outside the box and you're going to be fine. Take care, Cancer. So Leo, favorably, that Aries trines your sign because you're both fire signs. And it's in the 9th house for you. Beautiful place. Saturn will provide a stabilizing influence over your current situation. It can also represent a long journey or getting an advanced degree started, maybe even finishing off. Legal matters may work in your favor. And certainly older, that's Saturn, foreign folks, the foreign part of it is the 9th house, can give you some good advice. Now, Neptune in the 9th can really increase a higher consciousness type of energy. Religion, faith, philosophy may all come into view for you and be important for you in terms of maybe what's going on in your mind and what you're interested in. You may publish some kind of spiritual book at this time as well, because publishing is very much ninth house too. But we also have things like meaning in life. I mean, I always look at the ninth house as its core is, do I have meaning in life? Well, yes, indeed, you are going to be having meaning in life with this influence of Saturn and Neptune, because Saturn's going to make that stuff real for you. And really featured positively for you, where you look at your life and say, you know, after all that hard work I've done and all the effort I've put in, I really feel that I have the solid stuff around me here. The structures I have around me and the spirituality I have around me are truly giving me meaning in life. Can't go wrong on that. Now, in 3 years' time, you're going to have Saturn moving to your 10th house. Hey, Leo, this could be a time of great leadership on your part, but it can also have great achievement as well. I will cover that in another video, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up when Saturn in 3 years moves out of that 9th house. Take care, Leo. So Virgo, when we look at Aries, it is in your 8th house. And Saturn there says there might be some difficulties with other people that you share resources with, especially financial resources. On the other side, you may become an expert in financial matters or an expert in giving financial advice of some sort, maybe even being a one of those bank advisors that you go to help you put together an investment of some sort. Yeah, that could be coming in positively at this time. The main thing, though, here with Saturn in this house is to rely on your own money and especially take your own responsibilities seriously, right? That's the Saturn part. Don't rely on other people because you may not be able to. I would say also, if I had Saturn in my 8th house, I'd be working hard at getting rid of any debt that I have. Typically, we're talking about probably your credit cards, right? So this would be an excellent time, these 3 years, to make a plan. Making a plan is also Saturn, to get those finances in shape, especially anytime you're borrowing money from institutions or even other people, I guess. For others, you know, it's also a psychological house, the 8th house. So there may be some folks that are working on getting a psychological or psychiatry degree of some sort. And over these 3 years, you finalize that and it becomes something real for you, right? And you get elevated to be expert in that area. But now for you, Virgo, so, we've got that Neptune in the 8th house together with Saturn. I mean, this can increase, your real interest in the occult or psychic type things, kind of the mysteries of life, and may even for some Virgos initiate a whole new area of your life where you start delving into the mysteries of life and maybe things like, tarot or astrology. Anything like that could be activated at that time, or at least have you having great interest in it, right? It can also bring a great interest just in psychology as it is, right? Now, the other thing this can bring in is confusion over shared resources. So Neptune can do that too. Neptune can provide a dissolving type thing. Maybe you're going to dissolve, Virgo, some associations that you have with other people and shared resources. Maybe that's going to dissolve and no longer be there, and you won't have to be sharing your financial resources with other people because that goes away. Certainly Saturn here with Neptune can bring in a reality check to any kind of situations that are financial, psychological. I mean, this is also the house of sex as well. So there might be something that happens in that. I mean, there could also be some reality come in that makes something better for you in that area of your life too. It doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? But the 8th house also is the house of secrets. So at this time with this combo, you could have some secrets come to light here where you now see the reality of what those secrets are. That can happen here too. There could be misunderstandings with money, generally speaking, especially with the Neptune influence. Yeah. So I would say just, do your own work, do your own analysis, I guess, is what I'm thinking, and that would be the Saturn part of it, regarding anything that seems confusing with regards to your investments. You don't want to be taken with regards to any money matter. So check everything out. Don't sign things unless you've checked them out carefully, especially regarding financial matters during this time, at least over these 3 years, right? Saturn will be assisting you to make things real in this area. All you've got to do is pay attention to it and make decisions on how to deal with that information that comes in. That's what I would say is the most important thing. Also a great time to take up any psychological therapy. Be perfect for 3 years or so. I mean, it can last after Saturn leaves there too, but there'll be more of a reality energy put in here with understanding how your mind is working. Take care, Virgo. So for Libra, well, that Saturn and Neptune in Aries opposes your sign and falls in your 7th house. 7th house is partnerships of any sort. It's actually just all others that you interact with over there. Yeah, it's not a personal thing. And so it's those people that are going to be coming into focus here. And they may be coming into focus, big focus. They may be the ones that are having things happen to them. Maybe they're taking up more seriously religious matters, philosophical matters, metaphysical type things. They are making some of those things real for themselves. So it could literally be your partner's the big focus over those 3 years as opposed to you. But it can affect you in other ways too. And Saturn certainly suggests in the 7th house where you could get married. You could take that responsibility of getting married. For those that are married, it could be providing difficulties for you in your marriage, including divorcing. But it can just ask you to look at, why is this difficult here right now? And then Neptune stepping in can inspire you to make it better, right? But your partner might be elevated at this time. Saturn can certainly do that. There may be testing in partnerships. And I mean, if you think about it, if for those Librans that have just gotten married, there is testing in some ways in the first few years where you both find your footing independent of each other, but also how you can work together. Working together is the Saturn part. Certainly for those that are doing business partnerships, especially if you're doing anything regarding a compassionate type company or project, or say charity of any sorts, or even hospital type related things, that's very favored by the Saturn Neptune together over the next 3 years. Saturn provides reality for you with regards to any other person. Typically we talk about our marriage partner, our business partner, and or our clients. But with Neptune in there, we're going to be idealizing our partnerships, and especially when we talk about marriage partnerships or serious partnerships. So, I guess it might be worth your while to listen to your friends, to see what they have to say. Ask yourself, am I wearing rose-colored glasses here? Look at the facts. That's Saturn. And certainly Saturn over these 3 years will provide that for you should you want to look at it. Deception is kind of the worst thing that can happen here with Neptune in the 7th house. But at the same time, it can also provide great inspiration from others. Saturn certainly will bring an influence of making things real over these 3 years. And so I would say that that's a positive thing. You may have to take care of an ill person that's a partner. And it may just increase some kind of responsibility for you regarding other people for some reason, right? But it can bring in, I mean, like I said, it can bring in marriage. That's what your partnership, that's what the partnership we're talking about for you. And that's a good thing. And that you're inspired. The Neptune part of it with the Saturn says, I'm really inspired by this person. I want to marry this person. And that's what you end up doing, right? Then in 3 years' time, Saturn will move from Aries into Taurus, and it will be in your 8th house, putting a serious focus on seriously looking at your joint finances, your investments, your 401ks. It may even have you delving into your psychological self. It could bring more structure to your sex life as well in a positive way. It could also bring in some kind of responsibility regarding joint finances or finance generally speaking. Now, this could, in a sort of a day-to-day sense, maybe bring in an approval for a mortgage. You get approved for the mortgage, but it's a responsibility for you now to pay. And that could be a result of getting married previously in the years Saturn was in Aries in your 7th house. That's how it could play out too. Take care, Libra. So Scorpio, Saturn is going to be in Aries in your 6th house, as well as Neptune. And I think this is a real positive thing for you. The 6th house kind of represents two things. It can represent the work that you do day to day. If you do not work, it's what you do day to day. And it's also the house of health, as well as small animals. So, I mean, what could happen here is that you have an increase with regards to your position at work. Maybe you get, promoted at this time. Saturn can, if you've been working hard, Saturn can provide a promotion where you're seen maybe as the expert now. Yeah. Certainly Saturn in the 6th house increases your workload. Negatively, supervisors could be critical of you or literally increase your workload. And so to me, this says you need to really be looking at, if you are working too hard, to speak to your supervisor or manager about the fact that you're working too hard. And typically that plays out positively when you've collected enough information that shows, say, you're working 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day on a regular basis over a month, and you can't keep doing it, and you've got proof to show that. You can't just make the statement, I'm working too hard. And nowadays, everything is sort of very much regimented in terms of, when you start work, when you end work. And if you're working together on projects with other people, you usually have to submit those hours, right? So there may even be something out there that you can just download and show, say, look, it's right here, black and white. We collect this information. This has to change. But maybe you're working hard to make a name for yourself, and then that's okay for you. Health issues could come up at this time, and especially health issues when we look at the combination here of Neptune in the 6th house can also bring up sort of immunological type things where you can't quite, like a mystery, you don't know what it is. It's a possibility. It doesn't mean it's going to be a reality for you, Scorpio. It's just one area that could be affected as well, right? But it also could be for those Scorpios that have had something, say you do have some sort of mysterious health thing that comes up. Well, with Saturn being in that 6th house with Neptune for 3 years, you have the chance of bringing in an expert to actually sort that out, to make real what the mystery is with regards to your health. Now, Saturn and Neptune together can have sometimes a negative effect of having you doubt what you're doing. So there may be some Scorpios that doubt that they're really doing a great job at work. So it's really important during, especially this 3-year time period with the influence of both those planets, to not be really hard on yourself. Maybe objectively ask somebody how you're doing, as opposed to making your own decision that you're not doing things right. You're not working hard enough. You're not doing things the right way, when in reality you might be. It's just there's going to be a tendency for that, right? Yeah, avoid judging yourself negatively. That's what that whole, especially the Saturn part of it, Scorpio. Now, Neptune can bring in confusion at work and health. But if we look at what types of work it favors, that's Neptune. It favors the spiritual world, compassion, meditation of any sort, really having to help other people out that are less disadvantaged. And that can play out in lots of different types of work situations or jobs. So when you combine it with Saturn, positively, it could have you working for a charity or a 501c, for instance, or even a hospital setting. All these things would be favored for you with both Saturn and Neptune there. But for those folks that maybe are involved in dance, in the music industry, or in the film industry, this could be super positive for you, because the Saturn is going to bring reality to those dreams that you have, those inspirations that you have, that you're actually manifesting and doing at the work, the day-to-day job that you do. So there may be, for some Scorpios that are in those areas, some real maybe recognition. Saturn can bring in recognition here too, as well as hard work. There could be some misunderstandings with employers, or if you do hire people, employees. Always look for, I guess, the facts. With Saturn here, it says, let's look at the facts. And so that's what you do, with whether it's you're on the receiving end or you have to talk to employees that maybe aren't doing their work right, to bring them in and say, let's look at the facts here. Let's just work on this and make this a win-win situation for it. And maybe you're going to provide some inspiration, that's Neptune, to make them feel better, to get them on the road to do a better job for you. I mean, the other thing that could bring into you, we know this is the small animals house as well. You may actually get a small animal of some sort, and you over this three-year time period, learn to train that animal through inspiration, through compassion, but also through, Saturn is making it real to really help spell out the steps that this animal needs to take to be part of your life. But this could work out very positive for you. Work hard, Scorpio, but if you're working too hard, you need to talk to your managers about it or your supervisor. Just provide something tangible that reflects the facts, and you'll be okay. Take care, Scorpio. So Sagittarius, well, Aries is a fellow fire sign, so we know that it favorably trines you. This is just beaming positive energy, and it's your 5th house. So there's certainly going to be some Sagittarians that'll be doing one of two things, or maybe both things. Having something real come in for their love life, right? Making their love life real. Maybe with an older person, or you're the older person. That can be the influence of Saturn in that 5th house. For others, it may be, having the reality of a child come into their world too. It can also bring in difficulties with existing children as a negative thing, right? For those Sagittarians that are putting their own business, say over these first 3 years, you're putting your business together, this is very favorable. Work hard, that's Saturn. Be inspired, that's Neptune. That this is all going to come true for you. You're going to create this business. A creative project could come in at this time as well, a really inspiring creative project. Or you may inspire others through creativity of some sort. Sometimes it can bring in difficulties with children. Saturn can sometimes bring in difficulties with new, say, love relationships as well. With Neptune in the 5th house, for sure, romantic relationships are going to be like off the charts for you. You're just going to be feeling this is a soulmate, right? So do take care with the rose-colored glasses. But certainly with Saturn there boosting that Neptune, I would say it's going to bring a reality for you. Whether or not you want to look at it or not is another matter. But hey, with that trine, it's all positive. And I mean, I would encourage those Sagittarians that are in any of the areas that I've mentioned above, put a vision board together. If I were to pick a vision board For somebody I want to bring in that's a real solid love relationship or a real solid creative project or a real solid your own business manifesting, put a vision board together and look at it all the time, because that all could come together for you over these 3 years with both Neptune and Saturn together in your 5th house where Aries resides. Yeah, and I mean, for those folks that are having, say, issues with children, I would say use the Saturn part of it and look at the facts to make it easier for both of you to see the reality of the situation. Certainly being compassionate is going to be important here, Sagittarian, and that goes also to your children, right? Yeah, I mean, there may be mysterious events around your children as well, and these don't have to be negative things, right? Because it's a trine, there could be some really cool stuff happening with your children. I mean, the Neptune part of it can bring in, especially if you're putting your own business together, can certainly bring in some creative projects with regards to what? Dance, music, film, sculpture, poetry. Could all get Saturn on top of that, making it a reality for yourself, right? Very, very positive time for you, Sagittarius, I would say, overall. Now, in 3 years, that Saturn will move on into your 6th house. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'll put another video together regarding this. But just as a little heads up, you're going to be working hard in 3 years, probably working hard at a creative project that came in while by Saturn being in your 5th house. Could be a wrap-up and more work coming your way in 3 years' time when Saturn goes into Taurus and your 6th house. Yeah. Take care, Sagittarius. So Capricorn, Aries squares your sign and involves your 4th house. So it could just typically bring in increased responsibilities with regards to your family, increased responsibilities with regards to your home. And I mean, it could literally maybe have some Capricorns getting involved in putting the structure together for a home. Maybe working with other people to make it happen, right? Saturn is about structures. When we're talking about here, your home. And that could be a 3-year project where you're literally changing the structure of your home. The structure of your home could come through maybe other people coming into your life that you're responsible for. This could typically play out where you have your first child, you have your second child, right? And it's a responsibility that you have. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. It just means with the square that you've got to fit these things in, and it's not all straightforward. Always think outside the box, Capricorn, and you'll be fine. You could also have, say, family members coming to live with you, and you literally have to change the structure of your home, maybe even make an addition or put together a casitas in the backyard to accommodate maybe your parents or your mother alone. And that is your 3-year project that goes on. That requires some organization, right? Now, with Neptune in there, you could also have health problems happening. So health could be the Neptune side of it, maybe some immunological type thing. And the Saturn is responsibilities or difficulties. So there could be that some family members are having difficulties here, and you're the eldest or the closest living by, and you've got to help them with these health problems they're having. Maybe you've got to take them on a regular basis to the hospital or to get some kind of therapy of some sort. That may be up for you over the next 3 years. Now, Neptune part of it, it literally could have you living by water, right? Neptune's very much water-oriented, and the 4th house is the home. So this could have you taking on a new responsibility close to water, and that's a home. But it can also bring in, some problems with water in the home. So, hey, over the next 3 years, Capricorn, if you do have a home already, check out all the things that could go wrong with water. Typically these are taps or screws not being, or gaskets not being on right. I won't go into all of the details. You can figure that out yourself. But do check that out, because you're more susceptible at this time. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, Capricorn. It just means you're more susceptible to water problems in the home, right? Other things that could happen is that family members become confused. Maybe some of them are getting some kind of dementia of some sort, and you might be the go-to person that's responsible for them. And you may have to be involved in some part of their care as well. That's the Neptune part too, right? Now, when we look in 3 years' time, you're going to have Saturn going into your 5th house, bringing new responsibilities, maybe a new love coming into your life. Maybe children become a reality. That's also 5th house. Maybe in 3 years' time, you're going to land that fabulous creative project and make it real. So it's not all bad for you, Capricorn. Just overcome the challenges regarding family and home. Do what you can do, in advance of something happening, and you should be fine. Always think outside the box, Capricorn. Take care. So Aquarius, that Aries forms a sextile. We know that that's opportunities coming your way. How are they coming your way? They're coming through the 3rd house of communications. So there's new possibilities here for you to maybe put a sales and commerce project together of some sort. A writing project may be coming in for you. That's very 3rd house. You may be communicating more with your siblings and or neighbors for some reason. Maybe you're putting together some kind of compassionate project of some sort for the neighborhood. Yeah, new responsibilities can come in here with regards to communications of all sorts. Maybe you're setting up a communications system. Maybe that's the internet of some sort that you're doing. Maybe it is setting up a whole series of SOPs that you've got to put together. Maybe even small courses of some sort. That's very much 3rd house as well. 3rd house is also, short journeys, like around your city or your province or your state. So that could be coming up for you too. But it provides some inspiration for you too with that Neptune. And certainly if you're in the job, like say you're a traveling nurse, this is perfect for you because it's short journeys, generally speaking, that a lot of these traveling nurses, they cover a territory of some sort, right? That'd be a perfect thing here to have happen. But certainly you'll be providing, or anything like Wheels on Meals too, that's the compassionate project. You're providing a service to them via the Saturn, and you are doing it in the 3rd house of short journeys. Yeah, I'm just giving you a couple examples here too. Communications of all sorts could increase the likelihood of you becoming an expert communicator, right? But this could also pan out in presenting too, where you go present to groups and you become the expert in that area. Yeah, that 3rd house is all about communications, mainly speaking, and writing, sales and commerce type things. Now, the only thing that Neptune may add in is it could bring in potentially some confusions with regards to communications. So especially over these next 3 years with Saturn there, make sure you're always getting the facts. When something's confusing, gather the facts. Find out what went wrong and correct it, right? Excellent thing to be doing over these 3 years. Saturn can help clarify anything that may be confusing with regards to communications. Use it over these next 3 years. You may have a greater interest in spiritual and compassionate-like communication. Maybe you're going to become an inspirational speaker. Perfect for these 3 years. Your intuition may be increased as well and could provide you with some real insight, as can the spiritual world or the metaphysical world too. I would say, though, take care with all negotiations and contracts. over these next 3 years, Saturn there is going to bring clarity for you, but then it will leave in 3 years and Neptune will be there on its own, right? So know over these next 3 years, when you have communications or say contracts or paperwork that's confusing, it'll all get sorted out with Saturn bringing reality to it too. And this can equally work out for those in writing projects that are feeling lost. I don't know where to go with this writing project. Saturn for sure can bring in clarity. I said in the beginning that it's going to be mid-February 2026 that both these will conjoin. So that would also be an excellent time for you, Aquarius, if you are doing a writing project, to get some real clarity and inspiration at that time when they are conjunct exactly. Now, in 3 years' time, we're going to have that Saturn will go to your 4th house and will bring new responsibilities to your home. Maybe you're going to be buying your first house or your first condo. Maybe you're going to have your first child, and that's your new responsibility. Maybe you're going to have your parents come to live with you, or one of your parents come to live with you. These are all possibilities that could happen at this time in 3 years' time. I'll go into more detail in another video. Just wanted to give you, Aquarius, a little bit of a heads up. When Saturn does leave Aries in 3 years and goes into your 4th house. Take care, Aquarius. So, Pisces, Saturn and Neptune will be in your 2nd house. So you're going to have to get real about money, the money that you earn, and how you spend it. Certainly with Neptune there could provide a lot of confusion for you, or living in a bit of a daydream world with regards to spending your money and not realizing that you're spending too much of it. I mean, to me, that's the number one thing that could come up for some folks. But hey, just get real about it. Saturn's going to help you get real, put together a plan. Saturn's very much about putting together a plan about the money that you earn. But that Neptune can bring in confusion over money. Or, like I said, it can bring in kind of like living in a bit of a daydream about money. So you need to be real about money, but let me tell you, Saturn over these next 3 years will do lots to help make that real. It could also have you making money with some kind of spiritual type work or compassionate work. So this could be through a charity, through a hospital setting, right? Saturn, or Neptune rather, in this house, the 2nd house, also has you considering letting go of some of your possessions that you don't need anymore, getting along with less, for sure. It's going to encourage you to do that. Do take care with any risky propositions regarding money or gambling, that type of thing. As I said, Saturn can bring in a reality check, and the Saturn may come through a person too. Someone who's like a mentor, say, hey, that's not a good deal. Don't go there. But Neptune, on its own in that 2nd house could say, nah, just take that risk on that. Be very careful about getting the real facts and details about anything that you might go into. Gambling is not favored at this time, I can tell you, Pisces, so be careful with that. The nice thing that you're going to have happening, Pisces, is that certainly from June of 2025 to June of 2026, you're also going to have very lucky Jupiter in Cancer, because it's a fellow water sign trining your sign. So certainly for that year, June to June 2026, you could have some wonderful things come in for you, my dear, that may be very favorable for you. Certainly that Jupiter is going to provide a little bit of a cushion for you, maybe even a little bit of money that you need. I'm just thinking if you do run into some difficulties regarding money. Yeah, let me just see. 2, 3. That's your 5th house. So yeah, I mean, you could also have something activated in that 5th house. I'm just thinking if you're trying to start your own business, that influence of Jupiter in your to do with your 5th house could really assist you to make it grow, as well as give you maybe some money or benefits to do with you. I'm just trying to tie in this second house influence with the Jupiter positive influence as well. Yeah. It's just a great time for you to get serious about your money. Now, it could also bring in some serious money for you. Saturn can represent a serious situation. It may also have you getting more serious about your value, and you ask for more money in your job, right? That could also be up for you too. Take care of yourself, Pisces. All right, everybody. That's it for me. As always, I love doing your chart. Please feel free to reach out to me. All my contact info is below, my services as well. Lots of links there. Sending everybody lots of love. This is kind of an interesting time, Saturn and Neptune together. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this as an overall theme, a positive theme, could have us making our hopes, dreams, and wishes come true. And I'm not trying to be Pollyanna-ish about it. It really can be. So make hay while the sun shines over these 3 years to work hard, that's Saturn, to make your dreams come true. That is Neptune. Bye for now, everybody. Take care and lots of love.